Subscribe to History Vault right now if you value the kind of historical knowledge that was never written down because it was just too valuable to share openly. What you are about to learn is not a myth, not a romanticized saga detail, but a quiet architectural strategy Arctic Viking families relied on to survive winters that, well, routinely killed the unprepared. This roof trick left no obvious visual signature, which is exactly why it stayed hidden for centuries, even as archaeologists stood beneath it without noticing what they were seeing. The silent Viking roof trick was not about strength, but about controlling heat, moisture, and time. Most people imagine Viking roofs as heavy timber frames covered with sod, and that image is not wrong, but it is incomplete. What made these roofs extraordinary was not their weight, but their internal layering and airflow logic. Arctic Norse families understood that heat loss did not come only from cold air, but from moisture moving upward and escaping through poorly managed roof space. Their solution was a layered roof system that slowed heat movement, redirected condensation, and preserved warmth without smoke buildup or structural rot. The key was a hidden air pocket deliberately built into the roof structure. Viking roof builders created a shallow, sealed cavity between the inner wooden ceiling boards and the outer sod layers. This space was not accidental. It acted as a thermal buffer, trapping warm air that rose from the hearth while preventing direct contact with the cold sod above. Unlike modern insulation that relies on materials, this relied on still air, which, remains one of the most effective insulators known. To recreate this principle today, one would install a secondary inner ceiling beneath the main roof deck, leaving a narrow, uninterrupted air gap sealed from drafts. The roof's sod covering was engineered to work with this air pocket, not against it. The sod was laid root side up, allowing the grass layer to knit together and shed water outward while keeping the underside relatively dry. This mattered because wet insulation is useless insulation. Arctic Viking families understood that moisture management mattered as much as thickness. When snow melted on the roof, water travelled laterally through the sod instead of dripping downward. This reduced interior humidity and prevented heat loss caused by evaporation. Modern survival builders can, apply this logic by making sure that outer roofing layers shed water sideways before it ever reaches those important insulation layers. Smoke management was, interestingly, quietly integrated into the roof design rather than being vented away aggressively. Instead of building large chimneys that would just pull heat out of the house, Viking roofs allowed smoke to filter slowly through controlled gaps near the ridge. As smoke moved upward, it actually warmed the roof cavity and dried the sod and timber above. This clever method reduced rot, discouraged insects, and helped preserve structural wood for, generations. Archaeological roof timbers often show smoke darkening but minimal decay. A modern application would be a controlled venting system that allows warm air to rise gradually rather than escape rapidly, preserving heat while maintaining air quality. The angle of the roof played a survival role that is often overlooked. Viking roofs in Arctic regions were neither steep nor flat. Their moderate slope allowed snow to accumulate rather than slide off immediately. Snow acted as an additional insulation layer, sometimes doubling the roof's thermal resistance. Families did not rush to clear snow unless weight became dangerous. This understanding runs counter to modern instincts, but, it aligns perfectly with thermal physics. In cold climates today, allowing controlled snow retention on certain roof sections can dramatically improve heat retention. This roof system reduced fuel consumption in ways that, really shaped daily life. With less heat escaping upward, families burned less wood, peat or dung to maintain livable temperatures. Historical records and sagas frequently reference fuel shortages, which makes this roof trick not just a comfort feature, but honestly a survival necessity. Anyone practicing off-grid living today can, really apply this lesson by prioritizing insulation strategies that reduce fuel dependency before thinking about increasing fuel supply. The reason this trick remained hidden is because, honestly, it left little visible evidence. Once sod roofs collapsed or decayed, the internal air cavities disappeared. Later, observers assumed the roof had been solid throughout. Only careful analysis of beam spacing, ceiling remnants, and smoke patterns reveals the system. This is why it took centuries to recognize what Arctic families knew instinctively. The smartest survival solutions rarely look impressive. They work quietly day after day without announcing themselves. What this teaches us about Viking intelligence is, deeply practical. They did not fight the Arctic, they cooperated with it. They slowed heat loss instead of trying to overpower cold. They used air, moisture, smoke, and snow as tools rather than enemies. This roof trick was not a single innovation, but a system built on observation and restraint. If you value historically grounded survival knowledge that modern builders and historians are still rediscovering, subscribe to History Vault and share this episode with someone who thinks Vikings survived only through brute force. Their greatest strength was understanding the environment well enough to let it work for them, and this roof proves it.